Springbok. The Springbok Antidorcas marsupialis is a medium-sized antelope found mainly in South and Southwest Africa. The sole member of the genus Antidorcas, this bovid was first described by the German zoologist Eberhard August Wilhelm von Zimmermann in 1780. 3 subspecies are identified. A slender, long-legged antelope, the Springbok reaches at the shoulder and weighs between. Both sexes have a pair of black, long horns that curve backwards. The Springbok is characterized by a white face, a dark stripe running from the eyes to the mouth, a light brown coat marked by a reddish-brown stripe that runs from the upper foreleg to the buttocks across the flanks like the Thomson's gazelle, and a white rump flap. Active mainly at dawn and dusk, Springbok from harems mixed-sex herds. In earlier times, Springbok of the Kalahari desert and Karoo migrated in large numbers across the countryside, a practice known as trekbokking. A feature, peculiar but not unique, to the Springbok is pronking, in which the Springbok performs multiple leaps into the air up above the ground, in a stiff-legged posture, with the back bowed and the white flap lifted. Primarily a browser, the Springbok feeds on shrubs and succulents. This antelope can live without drinking water for years, meeting its requirements through eating succulent vegetation. Breeding takes place year-round, and peaks in the rainy season, when forage is most abundant. A single calf is born after a 5 to 6 month-long pregnancy. Weaning occurs at nearly 6 months of age, and the calf leaves its mother a few months later. Springbok inhabit the dry areas of South and Southwestern Africa. The International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources classifies the Springbok as a least concerned species. No major threats to the long-term survival of the species are known. The Springbok, in fact, is one of the few antelope species considered to have an expanding population. They are popular game animals and are valued for their meat and skin. The Springbok is the national animal of South Africa. Etymology. The common name Springbok, first recorded in 1775, comes from the Afrikaans word spring jump and bok antelope or goat. The scientific name of the Springbok is Antidorcas marsupialis. Anti is Greek for opposite, and Dorcas for gazelle, identifying the animal as not a gazelle. The specific epithet marsupialis comes from the Latin marsupium pocket, and refers to a pocket-like skin flap which extends along the midline of the back from the tail, which distinguishes the Springbok from true gazelles. Taxonomy and evolution. The Springbok, in the family Bovidae, was first described by the German zoologist Eberhard August Wilhelm von Zimmermann in 1780, who assigned the genus Antelope blackbird to the Springbok. In 1835, Swedish zoologist Carl Jakobsen placed the Springbok as the sole living member of the genus Antidorcas. Subspecies. 3 subspecies of Antidorcas marsupialis are recognized. Meters. Angolensis plain, 1922 occurs in Benguela and Mohamedis southwestern Angola. Meters. Half maritimus, 1926 occurs in Brazil and Great Namaqua in southwestern Africa. Its range lies north of the Orange River, stretching from Upington and Sandfontein through Botswana to Namibia. Meters. Marsupialis Zimmermann, 1780. Its range lies south of the Orange River, extending from the northeastern Cape of Good Hope to the Free State and Kimberley. Evolution. Fossil Springbok are known from the Pliocene. The antelope appears to have evolved about 3 million years ago from a gazelle-like ancestor. 3 fossil species of Antidorcas have been identified, in addition to the extant form, and appear to have been widespread across Africa. 2 of these, Bundy and Australis, became extinct around 7,000 years ago early Holocene. The 3rd species, Areki, probably gave rise to the extant form of marsupialis during the Pleistocene, about 100,000 years ago. Fossils have been reported from Pliocene, Pleistocene, and Holocene sites in northern, southern, and eastern Africa. Fossils dating back to 80 and 100,000 years ago have been excavated at Harold's Bay Cave, Western Cape Province, South Africa, and Flores Bad Free State, respectively. Description. The Springbok is a slender antelope with long legs and neck. Both sexes reach 71 at the shoulder, with the head and body length typically between 120 and. The weights for both sexes range between 27 and. The tail, 14 to long, ends in a short, black tuft. Major differences in the size and weight of the subspecies are seen. A study tabulated average body measurements for the 3 subspecies. Meters. Angolensis males stand 84 centimeters tall at the shoulder, while females are 81 centimeters tall. The males weigh around 31, while the females weigh 32 kilograms. Meters. Hafwari is the largest subspecies. Males are nearly 86 centimeters tall, and the notably shorter females are 71 centimeters tall. The males weigh 32, are heavier than females, that weigh 35 kilograms. However, meters. Marsupialis is the smallest subspecies, Males are 75 centimeters tall and females 72 centimeters tall. Average weight of males is 31, while for females it is 27 kilograms. Another study showed a strong correlation between the availability of winter dietary protein and the body mass. Dark stripes extend across the white face, from the corner of the eyes to the mouth. A dark patch marks the forehead. In juveniles, the stripes and the patch are light brown. The ears, narrow and pointed, measure 15. Typically light brown, the springbok has a dark reddish-brown band running horizontally from the upper foreleg to the edge of the buttocks, separating the dark back from the white underbelly. The tail except the terminal black tufted buttocks, the insides of the legs and the rump are all white. Two other varieties, pure black and pure white forms, are artificially selected in some South African ranches. Though born with a deep black sheen, adult black springbok are 2 shades of chocolate brown and develop a white marking on the face as they mature. White springbok, as the name suggests, are predominantly white with a light tin stripe on the flanks. The 3 subspecies also differ in their color. Ammeters. Angolensis has a brown to tawny coat, with thick, dark brown stripes on the face extending 2/3 down to the snout. While the lateral stripe is nearly black, the stripe on the rump is dark brown. The medium brown forehead patch extends to eye level and is separated from the bright white face by a dark brown border. A brown spot is seen on the nose. Ammeters. Hofmeyri is a light fawn with thin, dark brown face stripes. The stripes on the flanks are dark brown to black, and the posterior stripes are moderately brown. The forehead patch, dark brown or fawn, extends beyond the level of the eyes and mixes with the white of the face without any clear barriers. The nose may have a pale smudge. Ammeters. Marsupialis is a rich chestnut brown, with thin, light face stripes. The stripe near the rump is well marked, and that on the flanks is deep brown. The forehead is brown, fawn, or white, the patch not extending beyond the eyes and having no sharp boundaries. The nose is white or marked with brown. The skin along the middle of the dorsal side is folded in, and covered with 15 to white hair erected by erectopili muscles located between hair follicles. This white hair is almost fully concealed by the surrounding brown hairs until the fold opens up, and this is a major feature distinguishing this antelope from gazelles. Springbok differ from gazelles in several other ways. For instance, springbok have 2 premolars on both sides of either jaw, rather than the 3 observed in gazelles. This gives a total of 28 teeth in the springbok, rather than 32 of gazelles. Other points of difference include a longer, broader, and rigid bridge to the nose and more muscular cheeks in springbok, and differences in the structure of the horns. Both sexes have black horns, about 35 long, that are straight at the base and then curve backward. In ammeters. Marsupialis, females have thinner horns than males. The horns of females are only 60 to 70% as long as those of males. Horns have a girth of 71 at the base. This thins to 56 towards the tip. In the other 2 subspecies, horns of both sexes are nearly similar. The spore, narrow and sharp, is 5.5 centimeters long. Ecology and behavior. Springbok are mainly active around dawn and dusk. Activity is influenced by weather. Springbok can feed at night in hot weather and at midday in colder months. They rest in the shade of trees or bushes, and often bed down in the open when weather is cooler. The social structure of the springbok is similar to that of Thomson's gazelle. Mixed-sex herds or harems have a roughly 30:1 ratio. Bachelor individuals are also observed. In the mating season, males generally form herds and wander in search of mates. Females live with their offspring in herds that very rarely include dominant males. Territorial males round up female herds that enter their territories and keep out the bachelors. Mothers and juveniles may gather in nursery herds separate from harem and bachelor herds. After weaning, female juveniles stay with their mothers until the birth of their next calves, while males join bachelor groups. A study of vigilance behavior of herds revealed that individuals on the borders of herds tend to be more cautious, and vigilance decreases with group size. Group size and distance from roads and bushes were found to have major influence on vigilance, more among the grazing springbok than among their browsing counterparts. Adults were found to be more vigilant than juveniles, and males more vigilant than females. Springbok passing through bushes tend to be more vulnerable to predator attacks as they can not be easily alerted, and predators usually conceal themselves in bushes. Another study calculated that the time spent in vigilance by springbok on the edges of herds is roughly double that spent by those in the center and of open. Springbok were found to be more cautious in the late morning than at dawn or in the afternoon, and more at night than in the daytime. Rates and methods of vigilance were found to vary with the aim of lowering risk from predators. During the rut, males established territories, ranging from 10 to, which they mark by urinating and depositing large piles of dung. Males in neighboring territories frequently fight for access to females, which they do by twisting and levering at each other with their horns, interspersed with stabbing attacks. Females roam the territories of different males. Outside of the rut, mixed sex herds can range from as few as 3 to as many as 180 individuals, while all male bachelor herds are of typically no more than 50 individuals. Harem and nursery herds are much smaller, typically including no more than 10 individuals. In earlier times, when large populations of Springbok roamed the Kalahari Desert and Karoo, millions of migrating Springbok formed herds hundreds of kilometers long that could take several days to pass a town. These mass treks, known as trekbokking in Afrikaans, took place during long periods of drought. Herds could efficiently retrace their paths to their territories after long migrations. Trekbokking is still observed occasionally in Botswana, though on a much smaller scale than earlier. Springbok often go into bouts of repeated high leaps of up to 2 meters into their practice known as pronking, derived from the Afrikaans pronk, to show off or starting. In pronking, the Springbok performs multiple leaps into the air in a stiff-legged posture, with the back bowed and the white flap lifted. When the male shows off his strength to attract a mate, or to ward off predators, he starts off in a stiff-legged trot, leaping into the air with an arched back every few paces and lifting the flap along his back. Lifting the flap causes the long white hairs under the tail to stand up in a conspicuous fan shape, which in turn emits a strong scent of soot. Although the exact cause of this behavior is unknown, Springbok exhibit this activity when they are nervous or otherwise excited. The most accepted theory for pronking is that it is a method to raise alarm against a potential predator or confuse it, or to get a better view of a concealed predator. It may also be used for display. Springbok are very fast antelopes, clocked at 88 km. They generally tend to be ignored by carnivores unless they are breeding. Caracoles, cheetahs, leopards, spotted hyenas, lions, and wild dogs are major predators of the Springbok. Southern African wildcats, black-backed jackals, Faroe eagles, martial eagles, and tunny eagles target juveniles. Springbok are generally quiet animals, though they may make occasional low-pitched bellows as a greeting and high-pitched snorts when alarmed. Parasites. A 2012 study on the effects of rainfall patterns and parasite infections on the body of the Springbok in Etosha National Park observed that males and juveniles were in better health toward the end of the rainy season. Health of females was more affected by parasites than by rainfall. Parasite count in females peaked prior to and immediately after parturition. Studies show that Springbok host harems, Hemanchus, Longistrongylus and Trichistrongylus, Exodontix rubicephalus species, Listamolinia and Linogatha species. Eimeria species mainly affect juveniles. Diet. Springbok are primarily browsers and may switch to grazing occasionally. They feed on shrubs and young succulents such as Lamprantha species before they lignify. They prefer grasses such as Unditrinda. Springbok can meet their water needs from the food they eat and are able to survive without drinking water through dry season. In extreme cases, they do not drink any water over the course of their lives. Springbok may accomplish this by selecting flowers, seeds, and leaves of shrubs before dawn, when the food items are most succulent. In places such as Etosha National Park, Springbok seek out water bodies where they are available. Springbok gather in the wet season and disperse during the dry season, unlike other African mammals. Reproduction. Springbok mate year-round, though females are more likely to enter estrus during the rainy season, when food is more plentiful. Females are able to conceive at as early as 6 to 7 months, whereas males do not attain sexual maturity until 2 years, where it lasts 5 to 21 days. When a female approaches a rutting male, the male holds his head and tail at level with the ground, lowers his horns, and makes a loud grunting noise to attract her. The male then urinates and sniffs the female's perineum. If the female is receptive, she urinates as well, and the male makes a flamen gesture, and taps his lick till the female leaves or permits him to mate. Copulation consists of a single pelvic thrust. Gestation lasts 5 to 6 months, after which a single calf or early twins is born. Most births take place in the spring, October to November, prior to the onset of the rainy season. The infant weighs 3.8 to. The female keeps her calf hidden and covered while she is away. Mother and calf rejoin the herd about 3 to 4 weeks after parturition, the young are weaned at 5 or 6 months. When the mother gives birth again, the previous offspring, now 6 to 12 months old, deserts her to join herds of adult Springbok. Thus, a female can calve twice a year and even thrice if one calf dies. Springbok live for up to 10 years in the wild. Distribution and habitat. Springbok inhabit the dry areas of South and Southwestern Africa. Their range extends from northwestern South Africa through the Kalahari Desert into Namibia and Botswana. The Transvaal marks the eastern limit of the range, from where it extends westward to the Atlantic and northward to southern Angola and Botswana. In Botswana, they mostly occur in the Kalahari Desert in the southwestern and central parts of the country. They are widespread across Namibia and the vast grasslands of the Free State and the shrublands of Karoo in South Africa. However, they are confined to the Namib Desert in Angola. The historic range of the springbok stretched across the dry grasslands, bushlands, and shrublands of southwestern and southern Africa. Springbok migrated sporadically in southern parts of the range. These migrations are rarely seen nowadays, but seasonal congregations can still be observed in preferred areas of short vegetation, such as the Kalahari Desert. Threats and conservation. The springbok has been classified as least concern on the IUCN Red List. No major threats to the long-term survival of the species are known. The springbok is one of the few antelope species with a positive population trend. Springbok occur in several protected areas across their range: Makgadikgadi Indian National Park, Botswana, Galagadi Trans-Frontier Park between Botswana and South Africa, Etosha National Park and Namib Naukluft Park, Namibia, Mokola and Karoo National Parks, and a number of provincial reserves in South Africa. In 1999, right east of the IUCN SSC Antelope Specialist Group estimated the springbok population in South Africa at more than 670,000, noting that it might be an underestimate. However, estimates for Namibia, Angola, Botswana, Transvaal, Karoo, and the Free State, which gave a total population estimate of nearly 2,500,000 animals in southern Africa, were in complete disagreement with this estimate. Springbok are under active management in several private lands. Small populations have been introduced into private lands and provincial areas of KwaZulu-Natal. Relationship with humans. Springbok are hunted as game throughout Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa because of their attractive coats. They are common hunting targets due to their large numbers and the ease with which they can be supported on farmlands. The export of springbok skins, mainly from Namibia and South Africa, is a booming industry. These skins serve as taxidermy models. The meat is a prized fare and is readily available in South African supermarkets. As of 2011, the springbok, the gensbok, and the greater kudu collectively account for around two-thirds of the game meat production from Namibian farmlands. Nearly 90% of the springbok meat is exported as mechanically deboned meat to overseas markets. The latissimus dorsi muscle of the springbok comprises percent ash, percent fat, percent moisture, and percent protein. Stearic acid is the main fatty acid, accounting for percent of the fatty acids. The cholesterol content varies from 54.5 to per 100 g of meat. The fat of the meat increases if the springbok is under stress or cropping is done improperly. Consequently, the quality deteriorates and the color darkens. The meat might be adversely affected if the animal is killed by shooting. The meat may be consumed raw or used in prepared dishes. Biltong can be prepared by preserving the raw meat with vinegar, spices, and table salt without fermentation, followed by drying. Springbok meat may also be used in preparing salami. A study found that the flavor of the salami is better than mutton salami, and feels earlier than salami of beef, horse meat, or mutton. The springbok has been a national symbol of South Africa since the white minority rule in the 20th century. It was adopted as a nickname or mascot by several South African sports teams, most famously by the national rugby union team. The springbok is the national animal of South Africa. Even after the decline of apartheid, Nelson Mandela intervened to keep the name of the animal for the reconciliation of rugby fans, the majority of whom were whites. The springbok is featured on the reverse of the South African Kruger coin. The cap badge of the Royal Canadian Dragoons has featured a springbok since 1913, a reference to the unit's involvement in the Second Boer War.